So the equipment that you need is some string, a pair of scissors, and then the flowers we've got this week is we have 4 dianthus purple fleck, we have 3 chrysanthemums Santini, we have some Genesta in white, we have some Eustoma Rosetta Blue, and some pistache. So you've got a whole bunch of this. Probably don't need a whole bunch, but you've got it just in case you do. So we need to do a little bit of prepping. So the Eustoma, you've only got 2 stems, and ideally you'd have 3, but it's super expensive. So we're just going to be a little bit more clever with it. And you can see this one, it was like that. And then I've chopped it and turned it into 2. So now this is, it's just buds, but it's still good. It's going to bring us in texture and height and everything else. And then this guy, we're just going to take off some of the leaves. Again, so it's the same as the chrysanthemums and whatnot. It's that there's no leaves with your binding point downwards. So about halfway down. And then we need to do the same on this one. So as you can see here, I've got 1 stem here, and then here I've got 2 stems. So I think I'm going to take out this big chunky stem here, which is this one. So if we cut above there, we've then got 2 stems, and they're both quite nice stems then. So take off some leaves there, and then this one I'm just going to take off the big leaves so that it's a bit neater. The Genesta also is going to need a little bit of attention. Some of them, I mean, this one's absolutely fine. It's quite short, and it's fine. You know, there's a bare stem here, and there's lots of flowers at the top here. But this one is not quite so good. So this one needs a bit of thought. So I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to bring it in about here. So if I step back so you can see the whole stem, or like this, I don't know. Go above. We've then got 2 stems that are quite similar. And then I'm just going to take off these lower ones so that when I'm holding it, I've still got some stem here which has got no leaves or flowers on. So we need to do that with all of them. So, you know, just take your time and have a look at your stem and find the best place to cut it so that your bottom one can be just as long and just as usable as the top one. And this one, I mean, this one is a little bit spindly, to be honest. So if I went about there, it's a bit spindly, but what can we do? They can't all be amazing. The chrysanthemums should have leaves taken off about halfway. Again, this is the same as the Eustoma. It's so that when you're holding it, there's nothing in your hand foliage-wise. So everything below your binding point has no foliage. And the same on the dianthus. So what our plan is here is these dianthus are your focus. So we're going to have a dianthus in the middle, 3 around the outside, and then spaced in between the 3 around the outside will be the 3 chrysanthemums. We've got the Eustoma as a secondary flower, which again is just going to be spotted sporadically, and then your filler is the Genesta. So to start making the bouquet then, I'm going to start with my biggest, most beautiful dianthus in the middle. It's got a nice long, straight, strong stem, and the head's nice and big and it's open, so it's a lovely focal. So I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to hold in the stem straight down. I want to make like a little bed of foliage around the outside. So I'm going to bring in one stem, one side, and then another stem the other. So what I'm being mindful of with this foliage is that it is lower than the dianthus. The foliage isn't all up here because then we can't see the flowers. The flowers are the focal, not the foliage. So make sure that the foliage is tucked down low. The reason we use the foliage is to make the bouquet look bigger and create more air and more space. So it must be lower. You can have the odd bit flicking up, that's not a problem, but when there's lots and lots, it's a bit overpowering. So the next flower I'm going to bring in is a Genesta, and this is going to be a nice big one. So when we cut the stems down, some of them are quite small. So if this was in the middle, it's not showing enough colour and it's not filling out enough for the middle. Because this is the central bit of the bouquet, this is where your eye looks straight away. So this is the important bit. So we're using a nice top piece of the Genesta, and that is going to come straight in here next to the carnation. But we need to start forming the spiral part of the bouquet now. So the stem needs to come flying over your shoulder and comes into the bouquet so that the stem is pointing away from you. Then going to bring in a piece of eustoma and do exactly the same with that. And that comes flying over your shoulder, the stem pointing away, and it tucks in next to the dianthus. So you can see that we're not building this up here. It's not all coming out this way. We're building this third around this section. So I need this to sit next to the Genesta and also next to the dianthus. So that's the placement. We've got dianthus, eustoma, Genesta. In this back bit here, so close to the, in between the eustoma and the Genesta, I'm going to bring in a chrysanthemum. And this is doing exactly the same. It's coming over your shoulder and sitting next to the carnate, sitting in front. So then this is now forming the round. So we're doing one third, we'll turn, we'll do another third, we'll turn, we'll do another third. So we need to bring in another dianthus, and that is going to sit next to the chrysanthemum. Have the stem flying over your shoulder and bring that in. We're now done on flowers for this bit, but I'd like to bring in some foliage around here. To make the bouquet look a bit more finished and a bit more round. So this is going to fly over your shoulder again. Just because it's foliage doesn't mean that it's not spiraled. And I'm going to bring in another one behind the dianthus. So now you can see that the spiral is starting to kick into shape there. So now we need to turn the bouquet. So to do that, I'm going to use my right hand and grab the bottom of the stems, let go with my left and give it a turn, and then re-grab with the left. So now I've got a big gap here, and the next flower that needs to come in is a chrysanthemum, because we're going to have chrysanthemum, dianthus, chrysanthemum, dianthus. That's the pattern going round. So dianthus comes in. Sorry, chrysanthemum comes in. And then behind here I'm going to bring in some eustoma. So flying over the shoulder, bringing in, and into the design. So this way, eustomas aren't right on top of each other. So there's one there and there's one there. We've got a nice even space at the moment between the two chrysanthemums. And now I'm going to bring in some more of the Genesta. Around the back here, so that everything's got even spacing in between. And then we need to back that with a piece of foliage. And now I need a something here because I've got a bit of a gap here, so that's going to be some eustoma. So because I want this one here and there's too much foliage there already, I can actually bring this down, but I'm really making sure that it's still within the spiral. So just to show you what we don't want to do with the spiral, now I've got a few stems I can explain this. All our stems are going that way round, so they're all pointing the same direction. What people tend to do is then think they want a chrysanthemum here, so then instead of moving their hands or thinking about where they're going to put the stem, they just put the flower here, and the stem is now crisscrossed, it's going the opposite way to everything else. And then they put in another flower here, and then they do another one going that way. So then what you have then is crisscross stems, I hope you can see all right, all going in opposite directions. This makes it difficult to hold the bouquet, and it doesn't look as good. They don't interlock with each other very well. Spiraling is a very, very good technique to really get the hang of. So I now need to turn again now because I've done the next third, so I need to turn it so I can do the final third. So I'm going to grab with my right hand, give it a turn so I can do the next bit. I need to bring in a dianthus because that's doing our pattern. I need some genesta here. So this is going to come again shooting straight in that direction. And then we've got chrysanthemum, dianthus, chrysanthemum, dianthus. So we need a chrysanthemum here. I've got my one last piece of eustoma, which I'm actually going to leave because now I'm looking, I think it needs to be around here a bit more. I've got a bit of this genesta left. I'm going to bring in a little piece here, and now I'm going to turn my bouquet because the last flower I need is a dianthus here. If you can see, there's one. I need to bring in another one here, so I'm going to turn it, bring in the dianthus, and now I can look at, I've got all my placement flowers in, and I've just got a few little bits. I've got a bit of eustoma and a little bit of genesta and quite a bit of greenery. So what I will do now is I'll be looking at this and thinking where I've got gaps and where I need things. So for starters, I need some more greenery around here. I can see that there's a bit of a gap. So I'm going to bring that one in. And then to soften it down a bit, I'm going to bring in some more genesta. And I'm going to give it a little turn. And then here I've got a gap, which is just perfect for the eustoma. Ideally it would have more colour, but there's nothing I can do about that. It's what you know, I've got what I've got. So I've put in a little bit of genesta at the bottom here, just to finish it off. And then I'm pretty much done, really. I can add in some more greenery if I wanted to. I've got it, so I can do. But then that's my bouquet done. You can see I've got a triangle shape here with the chrysanthemums, and then I've got another triangular shape here with the carnations. Kind of with the eustoma, but then the genesta's just dotted everywhere. So my next job now is to tie the bouquet off. So I'll get a length of string, And if you get your string, bring it round your bouquet and then hold it with your finger. And then get the other end and wrap that round. So this is going above your hand. This is how you're going to keep the binding point nice and tight. So once you've gone around a couple of times, you can then lay the bouquet down. So you lay the bouquet down and then you can get both pieces of string and give them quite a good pull. And then bring them round to the front and then tie them in one knot, pull it tight, and then another knot on top to form a double knot, which is now nice and secure. Grab your scissors and cut the ends. So once your bouquet is tied, it should be really tight and you should be able to not hold it that tightly in the bouquet, not fall apart. You then need to cut your stems. So your stems need to be 2/3, 1/3. So that would be, this top of the bouquet is 2/3 and the bottom stems should be 1/3. So how we do that is if you have one hand on your binding point, just as a guide, one hand on the top of the flowers, you can bring your top hand down roughly about halfway. So now we know that this bit here is 1/3 and this bit here is 1/3. So then this third that we've made a rough guesstimate with our hands, bring that down again, and now we can know that this is 1/3. So just cut one stem as a guide. And then you need to hold all of your stems tightly at the bottom. There's no point doing it like this and guessing, because they'll always be wobbly. So hold the stems at the base tightly, and then that one that you cut as a guide, use that to cut them all the same. So then the stems are nice and flat. Your bouquet should then be able to stand. So our next stage is wrapping. You can see I've got some purple paper. So you don't need so much of the purple paper. This is about fine, so this is about half a metre. So the idea of the paper is that it just sits just above the flowers. And we need another piece. So use the first piece as a guide so that they're both the same. That's the important bit really. Paper to one side, and now you need to have your paper landscape and fold it in half. Just move that one out of the way so you can see. So fold it in half but don't crease it, and then bring it off centre and fold. So then you get these 2 points. You want these 2 points to be as similar in size as possible. So you've then got that shape. And then you need to do exactly the same with the other piece of paper. So have it landscape and fold it and use your first piece of paper as a guide. You then need to have your sellotape to hand. And you need to now make a pleat down the middle. So if you hold this at the centre, here, can you see? Let's bring that down. hold that in the centre and hold it, pinching it top and bottom, and give that a pleat over the middle. So then you have this. Okay, I'll show you again. So pinch it at the top, between finger and thumb, and at the bottom, give it a little fold over. So then you create this pinch. Okay. So then you want your piece of paper flat on the edge of the desk. Bring your bouquet to sit on top. So now the string needs to be above the paper. So you can see the edge of the paper is here and the string where my binding point is above it. Gently bring these paper round. Don't squash it in because we've spent all this time making the bouquet nice and big and open. We want it to stay loose. So just pinch those round. If you want to, you could sellotape at this point just to hold them in place. And then bring your other piece of paper and place this on top. Okay, give that a scrunch with your fingers and then lift the bouquet up. So we've now got the bouquet, but we want to pull it out a bit. We want the points to be as even as we can get them. So spend a bit of time manipulating it to get the paper where you want it. When you're happy with the positioning of the paper, so you've got nice even points going round, you need to sellotape. So a little bit of sellotape on the ends there, and then we want another one here. So just 2 pieces of sellotape, and that holds that securely in place. We are now going to overwrap with cellophane. So the cellophane will come taller because it's much bigger. But again, we don't want too much. So probably about 1/2 metre in length. And give that a cut. My scissors aren't very good for cutting cellophane. There we go. And then we need another one the same size, so use the first one as a guide. Okay, and then get your cellophane out the way. So then this is the same in the sense that we're going to have it profile, and then we're going to fold it in half and then slightly angle it off so that we get the points. It's exactly the same as before, and because the cellophane's slippy, I'm going to pinch it the same as what we did with the paper, but I'm going to do it straight away because it moves around, it's too slippy. So bring that one down and then do the same with the other piece. So you can use the first one as a guide. And I would take your time with this. It's really important to get the paper done right because you've spent a lot of time making the bouquet look beautiful. You want the packaging, the paper and the cellophane to enhance the design. So you want it to make it look even more beautiful, not the other way. So exactly the same as before is have your cellophane flat on the desk. Yep, right on the edge. Bring your bouquet so it sits on top. And then you can at this stage fold up the cellophane. You can see really gently. Again, you're not making it tight, so just literally where it falls. You don't want to force it into position anywhere, and then a bit of tape both sides to hold that in place. So you can see that the cellophane is much taller than the paper. And then you want your second piece of cellophane straight on top. Bring that round. And then where the cellophane meets, give that a tape, and then it will be on the same on the other side as well. Just tape that down. So that is our bouquet wrapped. We need to now secure this binding point, so we need a bit more string. You've got your length of string ready, and this is done in exactly the same way as before. So you need to hold the binding point, so it's the same binding point as when you tied the first time. It's always on the same place. So hold that really tightly between your thumb and finger. Get your string and wrap that over the top of your finger. If you go underneath, if you go here like this, it's going to be really loose and not in the right place. So go above, secure it with your finger, over the top of your hand, and wrap it round. Once you've got it into place and you can feel it's tight, you can let go and then pull both ends and really make that nice and tightly. And so now you've got the paper and cellophane really tightly tied on to the bouquet, and cut the ends. You have already cut your stems, but they might have moved a bit. You might need to trim them up a bit. You can see that I need to do mine. So now we're just going to make sure that these are straight. The idea being is that it should be able to stand. A good bang, it does. So now we need to put the aqua pack on. So to do the aqua pack, you need a square of cellophane. So you do that by getting a big piece of cellophane nicely out, getting one corner and making a triangle like that. And then where this triangle forms, you can't see. So the triangle here forms there. That's going to give us a square. So then we can cut here. You get rid of the cellophane, you don't need that. So you see that that's a triangle, but now we're going to unfold it. So now we've got a big square of cellophane, which we're going to lay flat on the desk in a diamond shape. So the point is up here in front of us, and we've got a bit hanging off the edge here. You need some string. Make sure you've got your string ready, and then you get your bouquet. So, bring your cellophane down. You want this needs to be quite evenly balanced. So make sure that when you fold up the next bit, it's not overlapping too much. So it's folded in half, so it's just so that you're not really heavy on one side with cellophane than the other. And then you need to scrunch round. So this needs to be quite tight, because if this is too baggy when you put the water in, the water will make it even baggier and it'll become heavy. So as tight as you can. So hold it at the top with one hand, and then with I use my right hand, give it a scrunch. Then always holding this now with your right hand, use your left hand to pull the cellophane into position and pleat it in to the binding point. So you can see I'm bringing it round, pulling it. So the bag is quite tight. We now need to tie. So this is tied the same way as before. Wrap the string around the back, securing it with your finger. Bring it round a couple of times, and then you can let go and pull it really tight. Now this has to be tight because this is what's going to hold the water. And then tie that in a double knot. And cut. The next stage is to make your bow and fix your bow on. Now I'm going to do that in class because I think you're all going to want to do different types of bows, so we'll go through that individually. But yeah, make your bow, put your bow on, and then it's time to add in the water. So get your bouquet and then straight into the middle, pour in the water. And there you have your finished design.